लाइव फ्लैश होगा ना जब लाइव हो जाएगा तो?
या मैम स्टार्ट हो गया, लाइव हो गया।
Okay, all right. Good morning, everybody. I hope that you all are doing well and you're all prepared for today's lecture. In yesterday's lecture, we studied poetry and we learned that how can we uh, understand language or learn language through literature, and poetry being a part of literature, how can we specially learn language through poetry? Right? So now today we are going to try to cover two units. One unit is your रीडिंग कॉम्प्रिहेंशन. जैसे कि मैंने कल आपको बताया था कि जो लैंग्वेज स्किल्स होते हैं उनको चार एस्पेक्ट्स में डिवाइड किया जा सकता है: रीडिंग, राइटिंग, स्पीकिंग एंड लिसनिंग. So today we'll try to cover the reading aspect, and you have one more unit that is of fiction, understanding language through fiction, and you have short stories in that. So we are going to try to cover that, right? So the outline for today's lecture uh, looks something like this. I'll share. um I hope you can see the. So today we are going to try to understand language through fiction. Uh, we are going to learn the related grammar to it. You have three short stories in your course. Three blind men describe an elephant, the ghost of Firosha Bagh, and Last Decade. So we are going to cover all these three stories. Um, we are going to read bits and parts from these stories. I'm going to tell you the summary of all three stories, and then we are going to together analyze these stories. And if we have time, which I think we will, we'll also try to cover uh, the reading unit. We are going to talk about how to enhance your reading comprehension, because reading comprehension is extremely important from an exam point of view. In the exam, probably the first question is going to be from reading comprehension. They are going to give you an unseen passage and they are going to ask questions from that. So you need to brush up your reading comprehension skills. And then we are going to probably practice one suggested reading uh, passage that is in your course, right? Okay, so I'll show you the syllabus one. Um, this is unit 1. Unit 1 is understanding everyday text. So basically it focuses on reading. So in this unit you have to, we have a few articles. I have picked one article from it. We'll read it and we'll try to understand, and we'll try to understand how to answer questions of reading comprehension based on passages, right? One is this, and another unit that we are going to cover today is understanding fiction. Uh, these are the three short stories that you have in your syllabus. Three Blind Men by Kumari Santosh, The Ghost of Firoz Shah Bagh by Rohinton Mistry, and The Last Dunk Day by Umar Shankar Joshi. Okay, so today we are going to cover that. Um, so let us start with the unit that is understanding language through fiction. So how can we understand language through fiction? कल हमने ये देखा था कि हम पोइट्री के थ्रू, पोइट्री में से क्या क्वालिटीज होती हैं लैंग्वेज की जो हम सीख सकते हैं. पोइट्री से वी कैन learn how to express ourselves. Poetry से we can learn how to express ourselves in less words. Fiction, but what is fiction? Fiction is basically anything that is a story, anything that's not real. Whether it's a short story, whether it's a poem, whether it's anything that you have written that is not based on reality, that is not real. जो भी मन गढ़ंत होता है वो fiction होता है, right? And how can we understand language through stories? See, when you read a story, when you try to understand what is happening in the story, what is a story? Basically, एक story एक structure होता है जो कोई narrate कर रहा होता है, right? Someone is telling you something. Someone is telling you what happens with who. So basically, that is a story. And by reading stories, when you try to understand language through stories, you learn how to narrate. You become a narrator. You learn how to tell stories, and that is an extremely important skill in today's world. Storytelling is a very important skill because we are basically the stories that we tell, right? We have heard that great people say that you become the story that you tell yourself, right? And we all have lived a large amount of our lives, and we have experienced a lot of things, we have seen a lot of things, we have a lot of thoughts. So we always have certain stories to tell. So in that sense, we are all storytellers, and how we tell those stories, how we see ourselves and make a story about ourselves. That skill is very important to live a good life. So that is the importance of storytelling and stories, and that is why it's important to learn language through fiction and stories, right? All right, but before we move to the stories, let's just quickly look at some grammar and vocabulary related to what we are going to learn today. There are some grammar portions that we would cover. Uh, what is an imperative? Imperative is basically a portion of grammar. Imperative is something that is used to give commands and orders. Like for instance, जब भी आप किसी को कोई command दे रहे हैं, यहाँ बैठ जाओ, ये कर लो, ये खा लो. Like for instance, walk to the corner, turn right, and cross the road. So the grammar portion that you use to give commands and orders, that is called an imperative. We'll look at a few examples. So imperatives can be used to either give orders or instructions or advice or warning, or maybe even to make a request or an offer or an invitation. For instance, go away, stop that. That's an order. So these are imperatives. Don't use this spray. That's an instruction. That's again an imperative. Don't forget to take your passport. That's either an advice or a warning. So that's again an imperative. Or to have a piece of cake. So that's an offer, or that is come around and see me sometime. So that is an invitation. So these are again imperatives, right? So basically, what are imperatives? Imperatives are what you use to give commands, orders, invitations, instructions, advice, or to make requests, right? Now we are going to move ahead to conditional clauses. So basically, what are conditional clauses or conditional sentences? Conditional clauses or conditional sentences are sentences which are used to express an action, but the twist is that the action can only take place if there is a certain condition. So the sentences that start with if, those are conditional sentences. The sentences which have a condition in them, or they have a preceding or a succeeding action in them, those are conditional sentences. So there are three types of conditional sentences. The first type of conditional sentence is uh, where there is a main verb and in the simple present, and there's a condition that will happen in the future. So the feature of the first type of conditional sentence is that its form looks something like this: if plus simple present and then will future. For instance, if I find her address. So if the starting of the sentence is with if denotes that there is a condition. I find her address. That is a sentence in simple present, and it is succeeded by a sentence in simple future. I'll send her an invitation. So if I find her an address, I'll send her an invitation. So this is a conditional sentence of the first type. The type 1 conditional sentence is characterized by the fact that it is very much possible and it is very likely that the condition will fulfill. So in all probability, the thing will happen. It's very likely, it's very probable to happen. Right? For instance, if John has the money, he will buy a Ferrari. So there's a very good chance that if John gets the money, he will definitely buy a Ferrari. So there's a very good chance that if John becomes rich, he will buy a Ferrari. So that is why it is the first type of conditional sentence. Always remember this form: if plus simple present and then will future. That is the form that is used for the first type of conditional sentence. Then there is a second type of conditional sentence. The form that we use for that is if plus simple past plus conditional one. So let's understand it with an example. If I found her address, I would send her an invitation. So usually in the second type of conditional sentence, instead of will, we use would. We use would, right? If I found her address, and it's the first part of the sentence, that is the main action or the main verb. It is not simple present like in the first kind of conditional sentence. It's actually in simple past. So in the first conditional sentence, we had written something like, if I meet her, I will hug her. So that is when we use will and when we use simple present, that is the first conditional sentence, right? This is simple present, this is simple future. But in the second type of conditional sentence, we use simple past and we use would. If I found her address, I would send her an invitation. If I had a lot of money, I wouldn't stay here. Right? Sometimes we can also use were instead of was. Like for instance, if I were you, I would not do this. So this is also an example of the second type of conditional sentence. The third type of conditional sentence is where the third type of conditional sentence is where you use the form of the sentence is if plus past perfect, and then you use either would have or some past participle, right? So like for instance, if I had found her address, I would have sent her an invitation. So one thing to remember in this kind of sentence is the structure goes like if had, would have. If I had met her, I would have hugged her. So the sentence which the conditional sentence which uses if had, would have, that is conditional sentence type 3. One main feature of the type 3 conditional sentences, that is it is impossible that the condition will be fulfilled because it refers to the past, right? So if had, would have, that is to describe the past. and you cannot go back into the past and change things, right? So it is almost impossible that this thing would happen. Like in the first conditional sentence, we saw that it's very likely that this thing would happen. In the second, the chances were a little less, and in the third, it's almost impossible, right? If I hadn't studied, I wouldn't have passed my exams. So these are some examples of conditional sentences. Basically, to make it very simple and very clear, the first kind of conditional sentence. So basically, what are conditional sentences? Conditional sentences are sentences where there is an action happening, but that is dependent on a condition. Like for instance, if I say I'll give you money, so that is just a sentence. I will give you money. That is a sentence in simple future. There is no conditions. There are no conditions attached to it. I did not say that if you work, I'll give you money. I did not say that if you study, I'll give you money. I did not say that if you do a job for me, I'll give you money. So there was no condition. So that is a simple sentence. But if I attach a condition to it, that if you work hard, I will give you money, or if you go and buy groceries for me, I'll give you money. So I will give you money. That action is dependent on a condition that you have to buy groceries for me. So whenever there is a sentence in which there is a main verb, an action happening, and there is a condition attached to it, those type of sentences are conditional sentences. There are three types of conditional sentences. One is where we use the simple future and simple present. Second is where we use the simple past and the use of the word would. And third is where we structure the sentence like if had, would have, right? So these are the three kind of conditional sentences. Now let us move on to transitions. Now, what are transitions? Transitions are basically those words that connect either those words or phrases or clauses or sentences between two parts or piece of writing which connect one sentence to another sentence, right? It can be a pronoun, it can be transitional experiences. Like, for instance, if I say, uh, I don't like pizza. However, if it's cheese burst, I can have some, right? So what did I do here? I wrote one sentence. I don't like pizza, but and then I wrote another sentence. If it's cheese burst, I'll have some. But if I have to connect these two sentences, I will use the word however. So here the word however is a transition, right? So let us just reiterate again what are transitions. Transition words are used to link words, phrases, or sentences. What is the function of transition words? Why do we use transition words? Because they help the reader to progress from one idea to the next idea. Okay? So basically, if you want to build a unity, if you want to build a relationship of the first sentence to the second sentence, you would use a transition word to connect both the sentences. They are extremely important in story writing because story writing has a structure where one thing is happening after the other, right? So you would need to use transitions. Let us look at some examples of transitions. For instance, Susan told her boss she was pregnant. As a result, he dismissed her 2 weeks later. So there's a sentence, Susan told her boss she was pregnant. There's another sentence, he dismissed her 2 weeks later. But you have to connect these two sentences. So as a result is a transition phrase here, right? The handsome millionaire Paul Ryder is looking for a new wife after his divorce. However, he is very unfriendly. So, however is again a transitional word here. Generally, politicians are honest. However, the job also attracts many dishonest people. So again, generally and however are transitional words here. It was snowing outside. Despite that, we decided to take the dog for a walk. So here, despite that, is a transitional sentence. It's a transitional phrase, right? So these are some grammar portions related to fiction that you need to know while reading a story or while writing a story. Right. Um, so far we have discussed what are the units that we would be covering today. We have discussed why it's important to study fiction or to study story writing and storytelling in order to understand language better, in order to become a better communicator. And we have studied some grammar portions related to story reading or story writing, right? So now let us move on to the stories that are in your course. So the first story that is in your course is its title is Three Blind Men Describe an Elephant by E. Santosh Kumar. So E. Santosh Kumar is a Malayalam writer. He's a very famous Malayalam writer from Kerala. This story was originally written in Malayalam and has been translated into English. You can find this story. So this story is the link to the story is there in your syllabus. This is the link. You can paste it in your search tab. You can paste it in Google. You can copy paste it in Google and you will get access to the story. So this is available on the internet and you can read the story on the internet. I'll tell you, I don't think that we will be able to read all the three stories line by line because they are very long and we are short on time. So I'm going to just scroll through the story and I'm going to tell you paragraph by paragraph whatever is happening in the story. Right? So this is the story about this is the narrator of the story is a man. We don't know the name of the narrator. Throughout the story, the narrator has been given no name. We don't know much about the narrator. In fact, the author has written no introduction to the narrator. We get to know a little bit about the narrator throughout the story. Right? So, the opening paragraph opens, and the narrator in that is talking about uh, a visiting faculty of theirs, that is Kuruvilla, who was a journalist, who did not like their organization or who did not like India, especially. And then he used to write negatively about their organization, about negatively about India. And in the first paragraph, the narrator is criticizing this journalist Kuruvilla. You know? Although there is not much significance of this journalist Kuruvilla, it's just something that the author has used to open the story. Now from the second paragraph, we get to know about the narrator a little bit. Here the narrator is saying that I was living in an old lodge that was rather cheaply priced. Among the inmates, I was the only one who was a student. So far, the only thing that we know about the narrator is that he is a student, right? And he is staying somewhere which is cheap and which is old, right? He is living in a building, and in the second paragraph, he has described his living conditions. He has described that he is the only student living in that lodge. All the other inmates are middle-aged government officials, and the building is old. Here it's written that one had to be very careful going up and down the staircase because the railings were very loose. So far, by the second paragraph, we just know that the narrator is a student. He lives in a building. He is the only student there, and the building that he lives in is very old, right? I think I'll give you a brief overview of the story so that you don't get confused. Basically, in two lines, uh, the story is about uh, a man who is the narrator, who is a student, and he is living in a building, and In the same building, on the same floor across the hall, are living three blind men. And he happens to one day see these three blind men and he gathers the courage to talk to them. And then, he's very fascinated by these blind men because he's curious about how the blind men live alone and manage by themselves. There is no, uh, you know, uh, visually abled man living with them. They cook themselves, they work, and they are blind. So he's very fascinated by them and he goes to talk to them. And they end up talking about elephants. They end up talking about how they love elephants and how they have experienced elephants, but they have never seen the elephants. So every blind man, there are three blind men. So every blind man describes an elephant which they have never seen in his own way, through his own perception or experience, or through his own imagination. So this is what is happening in the story. Right? Now let's go paragraph by paragraph. Uh, here he says that there are three blind men living across the hall, living in the room across mine. He never met them. All three blind men together. Okay. And then one day he sees them going out. They were going out, um, and he is very confused. I was baffled. Baffled means confused. He's very confused that how can these three blind men live together without any assistance from anyone else? Who were they? How did they become a threesome? And then how did they come together? So he was very curious about these blind men living together and how are they managing. So he observes them all day. Uh, he sees them going out on the road and to the bus stop, and he thinks about whether he can interview these blind men, whether he can actually get the journalist Kuruvilla, who he had mentioned in the first paragraph, who we read about in the first paragraph in the opening of the story, to take their interview and write about them. Right? Uh, so this is what is happening till now. Now he it's a lazy day for him. He goes out in the city and he goes into one of those TV showrooms where there is a cricket match playing, and he sees the blind men there. When I saw the threesome in such a crowd, that the idea of the interview with them revived in me. So he sees them, he gets very curious and he wants to interview these blind men. So he comes back and he knocks at their door gently. I knock gently. They invite him in. He opens the door and he sees them. And in this paragraph, there is a description of their living conditions or their living surroundings. So there is a well-lit bulb in their room, and there's a mattress. There's a grass mat on the floor. There is no pot or there is no bed, and there is a fan and there is a harmonium on the table. So in these two paragraphs, the author describes the living conditions of the blind men, and he introduces himself. They introduce themselves. Uh, so basically, they already know about each other, but they are meeting for the first time today. They start talking about cricket. One of the blind men is a huge fan of cricket, so that is why they had gone to the showroom to listen to the cricket commentary, right? So they start by talking about cricket, and uh, here one of the blind, the cricket fan, like the one of the blind men who is a big cricket fan, he introduces himself. His name is Shekhar, and he's a telephone operator. My name is Shekhar. I'm a telephone operator. I hope you can see my screen and you can like read the lines with me. See, I can't. Uh, and then one by one, all the blind men start introducing themselves to the narrator. So one of them is a telephone operator. One of them is a music teacher. One of them is a music teacher. One of them is actually uh, tourist guide. He's a tourist guide. So, the names of three blind men are given. One of them is Shekhar, one of them is Raghu Raman, and one of them is Chandran. So, Chandran tells the narrator that he's a tourist guide, and the narrator gets very interested. That guide, like, how can you be blind and be a guide? And then he talks about how he is a guide. He works as a guide in an ancient temple outside the city, and he tells the people about the history of the temple. He tells them about the sculptures, um, and then he talks about his childhood a bit. So they are introducing themselves, they are talking amongst themselves, and that is when the conversation digresses and they start talking about elephants. So I think it is Chandran who it is Shekharan. It is Shekharan who starts talking about an elephant. Basically, so he tells the narrator when Shekharan was small, his cousin had taken him to see a festival, and uh, an unfortunate incident happened during that festival that day. That an elephant had gone loose. The elephant had gone loose and he had started running here and there, and everybody started running to save themselves, but since Shekharan was blind, he could not see, he did not know where to run, so he fell down, and uh, he could hear the sounds of the feet of the elephant. He could hear a lot of sounds, he could hear a lot of panic. He fell down, he fell ill, and since he was a child, so that incident was very traumatic for him. The story is continued. So far the what is happening in this story right now is that Shekharan, the first guy who is his profession is he's a uh, he's a telephone operator. Yes, Shekharan is a telephone operator. So I zoom it so that you can see. Shekharan is telling everybody, and Shekharan is telling the reader about how he had a very traumatic incident with an elephant, and he stopped going to festivals. I've never gone to festivals thereafter. He stopped going to festivals after that, and he never forgot that elephant, you know. And that is how they start talking about elephants. So Shekharan describes how he had a traumatic incident with an elephant, and then everybody, all the other people, like the rest of the two blind men, they start talking about elephants and how they see elephants or what do they think of elephants. So Raghu Raman says, Raghu Raman, who is the music teacher, he says that he also thinks of elephants, but he dreams about them. Like, you have dreams when you sleep at night. You have dreams, right? Raghu Raman dreams about elephants, and then the narrator is further intrigued that how can a blind man dream? Like, he asks Raghu Raman that, what do you see? Like, you don't know how an elephant looks like. What do you see when you dream of elephants? So Raman says that I cannot like explain clearly, but he talks about that um, he dreams about them, and then they started asking the narrator that what does an elephant look like. So he asked. Uh, so the blind man asked the narrator that, but you have seen elephants, no? And then they want to know. See, if you can, I'm highlighting this. So the blind man asked the narrator that you have seen elephants. So please tell us, what does it look like? What was the elephant you saw like? Uh, and the narrator starts telling the blind man that an elephant is black, its tusks are white, and then like since the blind man have never seen an elephant, they ask questions like Raghuraman asks, is the elephant like a bus? And the narrator has a hard time explaining. And see, the theme that is being covered here, the point that the author is trying to make is that how do you describe the world to a blind man? How does uh, a person who has one experience describe that experience, which we always take for granted? See, a lot of us have eyes and a lot of us can see the world. But have we ever felt grateful for having eyes? Have we ever felt grateful for colors? Have we ever felt grateful for the fact that we can see? Right? Because we tend to take that experience for granted. And how will you how will you explain the world as you see it to a blind man when you yourself don't know how you see the world, right? So we ourselves are not aware of what we see. We see, but in a sense, we don't see that clearly. We are also blind. We see, but at the same time, we don't see, right? So that is what the author is trying to say. That's the point that the author is trying to make. That despite having eyes, we are also blind in some sense or the other, right? Um, for instance, we can very easily relate this to how there are so many social evils in our society. We see them, we have eyes, so we can see them, but we don't know anything about it, right? So, in a way, we just ignore them, we unsee them, we act blind. Despite the fact that we are not blind, we act blind. So, that is the point that the author is trying to make here. Uh, then the author, like the narrator, is having difficulty in explaining what an elephant looks like to those blind men. So the blind men start imagining themselves what an elephant must look like. So Shekharan says that the elephant is a vril, a tumble. Um, and he says that because his experience of the elephant has been like that. You remember he had that trauma because of the elephant getting loose during the festival. So that is how Shekharan sees it. Uh, Raghuraman describes the elephant is as some differently. Um, Chandran also describes elephants differently, right? So what is happening here is that these three blind men have never seen an elephant, but they are imagining. They are trying to imagine what an elephant must look like. And the moral of the story, like the crux of the author's message or whatever the author is trying to say is that uh, in a way we are all blind because we do not perceive reality as it is. We perceive reality as we experience it, right? So if we think that whatever we experience is the reality, then there are different types of reality and there is no one true reality, right? We think that what we think or what we have experienced or what we know is the truth, but there is no one absolute truth. Everybody thinks that their version of the truth is right, and that is wrong. So the point that the author is trying to make is that we perceive reality through our experiences or through our imagination. It's a philosophical line of thought. So how do you know that you exist, or how do you perceive reality? You can either experience it. For instance, how do I know that my laptop exists? Yeah, how do I know that my laptop is a reality? I can touch it, I can see it, right? I can sense it, I can experience it through my sensory faculty. So the philosophical message that the author is trying to give through this story is that we try to perceive reality as we experience it, and it becomes our reality, right? So they keep talking about elephants and their experiences with the elephants, and suddenly uh, one of the blind men, Chandran, says that he was so fond of elephants, he was so obsessed with elephants that as a child, when he was living in his village, he got a tattoo artist, uh, like engrave a tattoo on his thigh. So he talks about getting a tattoo in this paragraph, but the tattoo artist would not cure it. Will it's going to be an elephant, and if it's not, nothing. I told him. So Chandran gets an elephant tattooed on his body, and everybody wants to see it. So he shows them that it's on his thigh, just above the knee. Uh, and as Chandran shows that tattoo, the other two blind men, uh, they spread their fingers on the tattoo and get to know what the elephant looks like. So when you get a tattoo on your skin, the surface is a little elevated. You can touch the tattoo and you can figure out what the tattoo is shaped like. So, two blind men who have never seen an elephant get to know what an elephant looks like through the tattoo. So, till the time they had not experienced what the tattoo looks, what an elephant looks like, they were very vague about it. They had their own perceptions, they had their own visions of how an elephant looks like, and they all thought that their vision or their sense of reality or their imagination is the right one. But only when they experienced it, only when they experienced how an elephant looks like by touching the tattoo, then they got to know that what an elephant looks like. So again, coming back to the point that I was making, the author is trying to say that you can only know reality through your experience, through your sensory experience. How do you know that your nose exists? You can touch it. You can touch it, and touch is one of the sensory experiences, right? How do you know that food is being cooked in the neighboring house? You can smell it, right? Smell is again a sensory organ. So you can only experience reality through your sensory senses, and even that reality, might not be the final reality or might not be the only reality. So that is the point that the author is trying to make. Um, and the story ends like they they talk about the elephants. They get to know the elephant through the tattoo, and then the author, like the narrator, takes like he says goodbye to those blind men, and he goes back to his room. So it's a simple story. It's a sweet story by a Malayali writer. It's a short story, and the entire message is that we perceive reality through our sensory organs, through our sensory experiences. We perceive reality how we experience it, right? So, for instance, there might be a lot of students who might not like this lecture that much, right? So they would say that the lecture was not good because their experience of the lecture was not good, right? Some of the students might like this lecture and they would say that yeah, the lecture was good because their experience of the lecture was good, right? So we have got two realities. The lecture was good and it was not good. who would you believe? So that's what the author is trying to say, that there are different realities, there are multiple realities, there is no one reality. We perceive reality according to our experiences and our sensory faculties, right? So that is the point that the author is trying to make. It's a philosophical message. Um, so we are done with this story. Uh, Now let us move on. Now let us move on to the second short story in your course, that is The Last Dunk Cake. Um, so what we'll complete this story. I'll briefly tell you what is happening in this story, uh, and then we'll try to go paragraph by paragraph, analyze the story and the message in the story, and then we'll take a short break and we'll move on to the third story. So. The title of the story is The Last Dunk Cake. I hope you all know what a dunk cake is. Dunk is gobar, cake is gobar ka, um, what do we call it in Hindi? So, like a cake, you remember the केक्स ऑफ डंग और गोबर का जो बनता है, जो हम होलिका दहन जिससे करते हैं, जो हम होली पे जलाते हैं। तो वो जो ब्लैक ब्लैक होता है जो गाय के डंग से बनता है, दैट इज अ डंग केक, राइट? So, uh, and the author of the story is Uma Shankar Joshi. So, what is happening in this story is that there are three main characters whose name we know. There is Benilal and there is Himmat. Benilal and Himmat are friends, and they are sitting on a pot and they are talking. And there is a woman named Jivi. So, Jivi has come to Himmat's house to collect a dung cake because the season is cold. She wants to warm herself up and she wants to light a fire using the dung cake. So that is the setting of the story right now. Right? The message or the analysis of the story we'll do as we read the story. So in the opening of the story, we see. I'm going to take a break of 2 minutes. Um, I'm going to take a water break of 2 minutes, and I'll come back after 2 minutes. You can drink water if you want, and then we'll start with we'll continue with the second story, that is the last case. In the meantime, if you have any suggestions or if there's something that you're not understanding, because I can understand this, that understanding these stories when you have not read them can be difficult, because there's nothing much happening in these stories. It's just conversation, it's just people talking. So you can write them in the question answer box, and I'll read them, right? So we'll meet after 2 minutes. There's a break of 2 minutes, and we'll meet after that, right? Okay. I'm so sorry. You can drink water if you want, and then GV has, because their experience of the lecture is again a sensory organ. So you can only the second and the story and